All right, welcome to the sixth episode of the Next Man Up podcast. I'm here with Richard and Adam as usual, but also our friend Bobby. Bobby, say hello.
Hey, what's up?
All right, Bobby's a big-time Bears fan, an old friend of mine, one of my people I'd watched the Super Bowl with back when that was possible to do in person with people.
The
Right.
last two
So
Super
hopefully
Bowls.
that changes. But anyway, if you haven't seen the podcast before, this is just a sports podcast we do as pals. We crack open a beer. We started this podcast. We mostly talk football, basketball, and hockey. But today, guys, you're going to be excited. I'm probably going to step back quite a bit because we're going to talk almost all football. So
Fuck
Wow.
you guys ready to
Wow.
roll?
I'm ready.
Oh yeah. Ready when everyone else is.
Extremely ready.
All right. So first topic we have for free agency is we definitely want to talk about the spending the Patriots have done, because the time that Tom Brady was with the Patriots, they have spent zero money on free agency.
Right.
And now without Tom Brady, they're like opening up the vaults for like every single person imaginable to come in and pretty much save the Patriots, because they have pretty much almost the most cap space out of any other team in the league. And they have made some very good moves. They are getting Trent Brown back. They also got dual tight ends who are both very capable and fairly good at tight end too, which will help them because their receivers are still pretty trash. So
Yeah,
Shitting
they're
on-
still the
just-
Patriots when it comes
Just
to the
shitting
receivers.
on Nelson Aguilar there. I heard that
Poor
they're
Kendrick Bourne.
right.
What did
Nelson
he do?
Aguilar. I heard that they're kind of promoting to the number one set receiver, which I was surprised. They kind of paid him top dollar. I think he's making over like $10 million
I'm not
over
sure
the
how I
next
feel about
couple of
that.
years.
A lot of
I
money
think
for that.
I think that was a very interesting move. A lot of money to throw at a guy that hasn't done a whole lot. But yeah, definitely Jonnu Smith. He's a great red zone target for the most part. And Hunter Henry, when
stretches the
healthy,
field.
has definitely shown, that he can stretch the field and done a lot of things. But he has to prove that he can stay healthy. And Jonnu Smith, I don't know, maybe he has to find kind of a couple more ways to produce outside of the red zone.
Yeah, no, I mean, I pretty much agree with that. Nelson Aguilar getting paid way more than he should. His base
Nelson Aguilar
salary
is
is
the
going to
epitome
be
of an average wide receiver.
11 million, which, to be honest, I think Corey Davis is a better receiver than Aguilar, but
Yeah,
that's
I would
my
agree.
opinion there. So I think the Patriots kind of went a little bit too fast on that one. They definitely got a lot of defensive help. A lot of their big defensive signing was Matt Judon.
Right. Yeah, good
Yeah.
signing there, I think.
That was a good one.
Honestly, I think they got him for a little bit cheaper than I thought he would kind of go for. I think they got him for like just over 50 million for 4 years,
Yeah.
which actually for a linebacker is not terrible, I guess.
Yeah, it's 56 million on the deal, 32 million over the first 2 years. So after 2 years, typical Belichick way, after 2 years, if he's not panning out and not working, they're going to be able to cut him and save cap and not even have to worry about that. So
Yeah, definitely. And then bringing Cam Newton back was kind of interesting to me. I don't know if I necessarily love that move or hate it. I think at some points last year, Cam got like benched, so I didn't really expect him to come back. But again, I think they're paying him just over 10 million, which is the same price as the Bears got the red rifle for. So if you can produce as good, if not better than last year with the kind of more targets that they've kind of brought to him, then maybe that's not a terrible signing. What do you think about Cam Newton going back there?
I mean-
honestly, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, so with the Cam Newton, I think that's a better signing, because Cam did get benched due to COVID, and it seemed like he kind of was starting to kind of click with the offense a little bit, and then he did get COVID and was benched for a couple weeks, and then after he came back from that couple weeks, it seemed like he was totally different. Offense wasn't really gelling that much anymore. everything just seemed kind of like out of whack. So
And then
I
they
think,
rebenched him.
yeah, then they rebenched him. So I think a
Rebenched.
full actual offseason might help him. What do you think, Bobby?
No, I agree with you on that. At the end of the day, it just felt like we don't really know what else to do because we can't trade for somebody better. So it's one more year in Josh McDaniel's system. It just felt like, we'll just go with Cam. Like, he'll have another year to work with us. We'll get him. Well, actually, it's funny how 1 year without Tom Brady, the Patriot way, just turned
Right.
into let's throw money at everything and see if it fixes it way like everybody else.
Right.
I thought it was super ironic to see this offseason work out like that.
Yeah, I think they made 15 signings, and obviously the free agency
insane, yeah.
period is not done yet. I think the next team, is like the Dolphins at like 11 signings. So they have done quite a lot of signings, and not everyone's even signing on cheap deals. They're 50 million here, 20 million there, and it's not like they're signing people to like 2 million a year deals. Where they're getting some like secondhand guys. They're signing some of the bigger names out there, which is definitely not typical of a Patriot team that we've seen in pretty much our entire lifetime.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Patriots, they brought Kyle Van Noy back, which why the Dolphins cut him immediately is kind of shocking.
Sure. Yeah.
He's like he got a veteran presence. He's friends with Brian Flores, obviously, or else he wouldn't have signed there. But yeah, go back to New England. He's a great fit there. That was a surprising move.
Yeah.
Not that the Patriots brought him back, but just the Dolphins just cut him out of nowhere after he had a really good year.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely think I'm slightly surprised that it didn't seem like the Patriots went to like acquire like Jimmy Garoppolo, because it's clear that the 49ers don't seem to be sure that he's going to be the guy this next year. They definitely have far from come out and said that they're sticking with Garoppolo. So I thought him returning to the Patriots kind of made sense. And they didn't seem like they were sold on Cam last year. So I was kind of surprised that I kind of thought that was the move that might be made there.
With Jimmy G, it's like, even when Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch, like if you listen to them in their press conferences, they don't sound like confident in the slightest bit when got Garoppolo for now today.
Right. Yes.
Like when McVay and Les Snead, like the day before they shipped Jared Goff.
Right.
Right now at 3:00 today, Jared Goff is our quarterback, and you're gone.
Right. And Rich, I don't know if you remember, but at the end of last year, in that playoff game, I believe I turned to you and said, I don't think Jared Goff is going to be the quarterback of the Rams like next year. And people were like, there's no way that they're going to move on from him. But I kind of made that call, and I was even a little bit surprised that it happened. But at the time, watching that game,
fast.
I was like, I was definitely surprised it happened that fast. But at the time, I just remember like watching that playoff game being like, they do not seem sold on Jared Goff at all.
No, they want Walford
This is
in
the
there.
most humble brag I've ever heard in my life. Like, this is the mellowest assessment of the fact that you totally called that. Just take some ownership for it. You got it right.
I mean, I guess so.
Totally called it. The funny thing with what is it? With Jared Goff is I think it was hold on, I gotta look him up real quick. The defensive tackle for the Rams totally ripped on Jared Goff about how he's not a good quarterback, how Matthew Stafford is a huge upgrade, and then the Rams turn around and traded him to the Lions. Yeah,
for a
Michael
7th round pick
Brockers.
too, right?
Yep.
Michael Brockers, literally, as soon as they got Matthew Stafford, it was like, oh, huge upgrade over Goff. And then a week later, they're like, yep, shipping you over to the Lions too.
The best comment I saw on Instagram was someone just goes, oh, 7th round pick, huge upgrade.
That would almost be. I mean, now he's got to play with him again after coming out and saying something like that. That's pretty interesting to see. But definitely outside of the Patriots.
Hold on, I'm gonna cut you off real quick, Adam.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to get back before this gets completely buried. With you saying that the Patriots had the most signings, The Texans have the most signings as of
Oh.
right now with 18.
If you
And-
include
Division over
trades, I think
quality.
you have to
Yeah.
include trades for that to be the case, right?
No, they have 2 trades out of the 18. So they have signed
Well, it's tied then,
16
right? Did you
people,
say 16?
and that's just going to show you how many people they have signed that mean absolutely nothing to everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's just not in the news at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think they've signed
Tyrod Taylor's the best player they've signed, unless I'm missing something.
I think they've signed like 5 corners, which is like insane to me. It's like not even all those guys are
Just
going to
say
make it
that
onto the
sentence
field.
again in your head. 5
Yeah.
corners.
No, they
yeah.
signed.
The
Oh,
field
it
only
is-
has 4.
They have 4
I
corners,
know,
1
obviously they come off
safety.
the bench, but it's just
So
funny.
they
Yeah, but I
got
think
5 DBs.
But isn't Terrence Brooks is the safety I think you're referring
Yeah.
to, and I think he plays kind of that in
Hybrid?
between, yeah, that corner safety position. So, Rich,
It actually
unlike
makes
you, I
sense
don't
that
have
they-
every single name in front of me, so I'm going off of like things that I've heard during the week. I'm not staring at everybody that they've picked up over the last week.
Hey, I'm
Maybe
just
I should.
saying, man.
I feel like you're cheating a little bit.
I'm just like, oh, so now I'm cheating when I don't know something, I get totally ragged on about it.
But
So
it was
now I'm
funny.
making
We liked when you
sure
didn't
to
know
make
You
things.
you clearly can't win, Rich. So
Apparently.
stop trying so hard.
This is ridiculous. Oh,
Rich,
wait.
pretty soon Rich is going to start writing topics that we don't know anything about and then like passing it off on us
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah.
Whereas like when we did that, it was on accident.
Sure,
that's
right.
totally true.
It really was on accident, man. You wrote a topic on there. I assumed you knew something about it.
Yeah, but I guess moving on from the Patriots, let's talk about maybe some players that the Bears have lost that you're either happy to see
Jesus.
go or not happy to see go.
This is the most
So-
casual segue into such a disappointing topic.
Yeah. Okay. So
All
who?
right, they just
Get
cut
mad,
Kyle
Adam,
Fuller.
please.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
They
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 just
did.
did.
cut
Mad
Kyle
for
Fuller.
Adam.
That was the big news I
Are you
referred
fucking
to earlier.
kidding me?
Literally like
Oh,
45
you didn't hear
minutes
that,
ago.
Rich?
Yeah.
Dude.
I was
You need
like,
a minute,
I really
Rich? Are
wanted
you
to
okay?
open with that because it like just popped up on my phone before I signed on, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
Oh.
That's absolutely insane. How do you not at least trade a player like that and get something for him?
Okay,
I mean-
this really pisses me off because you're gonna sit there and cut Kyle Fuller for $11 million and then hand Andy Dalton $10 million
Right.
when we already have Nick Foles, who is the same freaking quarterback.
No, Nick Foles
You-
is
One's
worse.
a ginger
Gotta
and
be
the other
Can
isn't. I
somebody,
think
kidding
it's-
me.
can somebody make the cover photo for this podcast just like the Spider-Man meme of the 2 Spider-Mans pointing at each other, and then one of them is Andy Dalton and one of them is Nick Foles?
It might
Rich,
as well
That would be
be.
good.
If
Rich,
not,
sad-
at least we did like a verbal meme so people can like visualize that if we're too lazy to
Sadly
actually do
enough,
it.
though, as we talk about this, I hate Nick Foles more than I hate Andy Dalton.
Wow, hot take.
Yeah.
That's like how strongly I feel about how much of a piece of garbage Nick Foles is.
At
Like
least
that
Nick
man,
Foles was
that
a
man,
Get a
legend
like,
freak
all
off
year.
season.
I
and that's it.
I really like when I picture Nick Foles, I picture him like Oscar the Grouch style popping out of a fucking trash can and like someone like throws like a half-eaten Chipotle burrito on him and then he like goes away. Like that's how I feel about fucking Nick Foles. And
Reminds
Andy
me more of
Dalton,
Big Bird, but
Andy Dalton at least has done something with his life. Not win games, but something. So
Andy
Oh,
Dalton won me a fantasy
hold on.
football championship one time. That's the only thing he's done for me personally. And that was like 5 years ago, and people were like, "Seriously, that's your starting quarterback?" I was like, I spent all my draft picks on other people. Like I got him
Right,
in like
yeah.
5th, 7th round or something. So that just
Jesus.
goes to show how mediocre.
was-
this
I think
team
that
is.
season
He
was, like,
mediocre
him.
5 years
it was
ago.
like him and AJ Green, and they both like just lit it up that year. And like since then, he hasn't done shit. So
That's probably what it was, honestly.
I am,
Before
like,
AJ
so
Green started getting hurt all
Baffled
the
by
time.
that. Why did you not cut Nick Foles then? If you sign Andy Dalton and
Right.
expect him to be your starter, to save cap, cut Nick Foles because he
Exactly.
would have saved more than 11 million instead of getting rid of your best corner.
yeah, no, definitely. I have no idea.
Unbelievable.
I have no idea how, going into this offseason, we go, okay, we definitely have needs. We probably, even if we keep Allen Robinson, which doesn't even seem likely at this point, we need another receiver. We need offensive line help. We
Definitely
probably need a
offensive line.
strong or a free safety. But we look at it going, oh, but our front 8 is good, our corners are good, and Ryan Pace turns around and goes, are they? Let's maybe get rid of them. It's like let's take our strength and turn it into like a weakness right before or during free agency. And it's like we don't have cap space to replace them. And in the draft, we have too many needs now to address like where we're picking.
Like, with Kyle Fuller, like if he was going to be part of the Russell Wilson trade, which I'm going to admit, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was like going to sleep, like just constantly updating
He
my
was
phone.
never
All right,
moving.
come on, Shefty, make it happen.
Come on, Bobby. That's just an abusive relationship. You can't possibly have thought that the Bears would get a good quarterback.
Like if he was part of that trade, I would have been like, I get it, worth it. Like we can't just cut him for nothing. He's an all-pro cornerback.
Yeah.
Somebody would have given us like at least like maybe a second round or third round pick. Like I don't know. I just don't get it.
No, like I 100%, because they said they released, like, according to the media, we offered 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and two veteran starting defensive players that were unnamed. I 100% guarantee Kyle Fuller was one of them, because
maybe that's why they cut him, is maybe he found out he was in that trade proposal and he expressed, discomfort with that, and that's why they cut him. I don't know. But then still, to Bobby's point, why wouldn't you trade him?
Yeah, I'm completely baffled by that move. I feel like we could have gotten at least something for him.
Yeah. Even if it's the 6th or 7th, like even if you're gonna cut him, get something. Like anything.
Like another play. Like he's been an all-pro cornerback 2 years. Like we could have gotten like at least like another, like maybe an offensive lineman. Like even if it's not a pick, anything would have been better than this.
I think he could go to 10 teams right now and be the best corner on that roster. Like that's like how good of a player like he is. So to get rid of him at this stage, he's not all that old, right? He's
like 28.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably in his upper 20s still. He probably hasn't even hit 30. That baffled me when I read that. And like that's what I said when I first came on, that I was a little salty about a lot of things that happened today. I had literally just read the Kyle Fuller news, and I was like, Andy Dalton, and then you get rid of Kyle Fuller. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I am so pissed just because like I have stuck up for Ryan Pace multiple times saying
that's a big mistake.
Give him come on, like give him time. Bears roster was a total mess. And now it's like, no, dude, you suck at your job. You have done nothing. And then it's also super weird that like, oh, okay, so like this is kind of like the same thing, like not the same thing, but like this is what's annoying with like Ryan Pace. It's like, oh, it gets leaked what the Bears offered Seattle, so it makes them look like, oh, well, like we tried, we attempted, but at the end of the day, you still did nothing. He sucks at trading. Like besides that,
well, and it's worse than nothing because now the players see that there was an offer. Like it's a bad look. It's an amateur look because now the players get disgruntled if they find out they were in that trade offer, and then they don't want to play there anymore. And then you're obviously you no longer have the leeway in a trade scenario when there's a disgruntled player and the rest of the league starts to find out about it. Then you basically have to get rid of them for less than what they're actually worth. So I don't know. Yeah, not keeping that stuff under wraps. Like, I mean, just as a joke. Like, if you play like video games and you play like the My GM mode, like that'll kill your like rating in the game, in that game mode or whatever in the game. If you're like leaking trades and people are finding out who was in the trade, like that'll like ruin your rapport and like your team chemistry goes down and stuff like that. I don't know if there's that in Madden or whatever, but in NBA 2K they have that, and it's hilarious to me that like actual GMs make mistakes that like people in video that play video games, they just
Madden's
play for
too dumb
how
to do
to
that.
not do that.
Madden hasn't changed in 5 years, so there's no way in hell you can do anything that intricate.
There's a GM simulating football app that I have on my phone it's no real players. They all have like weird names and stuff. But you play as a GM and you acquire players and stuff. And if you try to like trade a player and it's unsuccessful, that player like gets pissed and can like hold out and stuff like that. So there's definitely things like that in football. But yeah, Madden should add that, I guess.
Dude,
we're already on
just
the Bears
loves you.
topic. We
They've
better
just
not go
given
off the
you the
deep end on
same
Madden or this
game for the
podcast
past
is
like
over.
7 years.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bears news, what do you guys feel about Mitch joining Bills Mafia?
I think it's a good move, actually.
That's a good move for the Bills.
It's a solid backup for Josh Allen. He's athletic, not as athletic, maybe, but he can more or less hop in and like run the same offense because of the athleticism.
Yeah, I think it's a solid move for multiple reasons. One, as a backup quarterback, he's only making $2.5 million, which is even cheap for a backup quarterback. So if he has to come in and play, he's obviously has starting experience in the league, and he's shown that as much as, you know, we waver on him, he's shown that he can win games with some talent around him, which the Bills obviously have a lot of talent on that team. So I think that was great that they got him for cheap, and he comes in and can easily be a solid backup. But also I like the move because if you look at a guy like Josh Allen, when he came in, everyone's like, he has the athleticism, he has the arm talent, he has this and that, but he's a little raw right now. And they really developed him into a good decision maker and a really good player, obviously, all around. If the team can develop Mitch Trubisky more and make him into a better decision maker, they could literally probably re-sign him and flip that for picks later on. If he has to step in and he's making strides to be a better player under that coaching staff instead of being with the Bears, I can see a team, trying to acquire him at a later date for sure.
God knows Matt Nagy had no desire to coach him up in the slightest bit.
That is so true. That's another thing, too, with stupid Ryan Pace. When you traded up for Mitch Trubisky, why did you not fire John Fox? Knowing you were already going to get rid of John Fox. You didn't even want John Fox, but now you're going to pick your quarterback and then try to bring in a new head coach. Instead of having your head coach that is going to be offensive-minded, pick the quarterback that they want or need.
Right.
That's the smart move to do. But instead, Ryan Pace wants to be Captain Ego and be like, my decision's better, my decision's final instead. And now look what you did to the team. You have totally screwed the offense for the past freaking 3-4 years now because of an ego move to do that to John Fox, because there's already reports out that John Fox told him to sign Watson.
Yeah, no, definitely, Rich. I think that's a valid point. I think a lot of times you kind of go with you go with the coach first and have him kind of pick what quarterback fits his system. But if we're looking at this now, all the press conferences that have been coming out this year with Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, they keep saying, "Oh, we're on the same page where we're going with the quarterback."
Not on the same page.
And they go with Andy Dalton. Yeah. So if Matt Nagy, if his idea of a good quarterback was Andy Dalton, who knows who we would have drafted if he was the coach that year. So,
sports are changing too. I don't know. Like, you don't want to say things like, we're going to pick our coach and let the coach pick the quarterback. The reason you wind up with a guy like Andy Dalton when you say stuff like that is because all the great quarterbacks want you to pick them and then pick a coach that fits with them. Like, they're the ones that are, irreplaceable. Coaches, no offense, in sports are fairly replaceable. When things start going bad, who's the first guy they let go in almost any sport? They let go of the coach when the team starts playing bad. Right. So why would you pick a coach and then build a quarterback around the coach, knowing that the coach might get fired in a year if they underachieve? They're not going to – a player's under contract for, multiple years. So why would you ever build in this day and age around a coach when a coach is just – I don't know. It just seems like far less permanent of a position than starting quarterback of a football team.
Sure. With Matt Nagy, the thing is, I wasn't around for his interview, but I'm about 99.99% sure he got the job because he was gloating on, oh, just wait, give me a year with Mitch. All-pro MVP candidate. The people think you're a genius for drafting him number 2 now.
Did make a Pro Bowl.
All right, let's take an
That's
easy
true.
The Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
Do they what's a Pro Bowl? Like half the guys that make it opt out, and then.
Yeah. So I guess at this point, my question to you guys is, with having signed Andy Dalton, and Mitch is definitely, going to be a Bill this next year. Which quarterback would you have rather signed? Same money, same terms, all that. Just compare the two players. Which quarterback would you have rather had be on the roster this year?
Honestly, Mitch, I can't believe I'm saying that either. But
forget that. I would rather go get.
I agree. At
If
least
we could
Mitch is
keep,
young.
if we could keep Allen Robinson for free agency, I'd rather take Alex Smith because Alex Smith is more of he's kind of I feel like he would be more of a Bears kind of quarterback where it's just he's not flashy. He's not going to be throwing too many deep balls. It's he's going to move the chains. You're going to eat that clock. It's going to keep the defense fresh. He's just going to make the way smarter decision where Andy Dalton, all the reports coming out, he could still sling it. He could still throw it down the field. Okay, that's cool. So now we're just going to have Andy Dalton blindly throwing it down the field when he doesn't have time to stay in the pocket.
Rich, you avoided the question.
And I misinterpreted it also.
It's a question we hate to have to answer.
No, definitely. No, the question was, which quarterback would you have rather have this year? It was Mitch or Andy Dalton, Rich. No other.
I answered it correctly then.
Okay.
Because if we're allowed to pick a third party, I would have rather had Fitzmagic for 1 year than either of them. I'll take the highs of Fitzmagic than neither of those. Both.
I agree. At least it's
even though he's
to
inconsistent,
watch.
But he's got swagger. He's a leader. He's respected. He's smart as hell, so he would pick up any offense pretty quickly. I'll take the highs of Fitzmagic over either of them. Give me Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I don't know about that as a starter. He was every time he's guaranteed to be the starter going forward, he sucks. But every time he has to come in and be a backup, or if someone else is expected to start and he's kind of earned the position, he plays really well. So he's really kind of like a question mark always. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely argue that would have been a better signing. But yeah, Rich, the question was Mitch or Andy Dalton.
All right. I got
for the
confused.
same money.
Yeah.
Didn't take long for Rich to
that's
mess
what
up.
that's
He was
what
doing
messed
way
me
too
up.
good.
You said the same money, so I'm like, oh, so if it's for the same money for $10 million, I was just thinking free
That threw
agents.
me off too.
So okay. So yeah, I would have kept Mitch then because out of all three of them, Mitch, as much non-progress that he has made in this offense, he at least knows the offense. And on top of that, he every game or so, he'll have a couple really nice balls where sometimes, our shitty receivers will drop them or maybe not as much effort is thrown into catching the ball type situation. But the biggest problem with Trubisky was more of his consistency. He'll throw an out route and it looks beautiful. Then the next 3 out routes, it's high, low, too far outside, and it's just why can't you consistently throw a good ball for the kind of the same routes?
But to your point, at least he's athletic. I've definitely seen plays like that too, where he makes a beautiful move in the pocket and scrambles and he gets wide open, but then he just overthrows somebody. But wouldn't you rather at least have someone who can make something happen when shit hits the fan than a 33-year-old redhead quarterback that can't do shit? Sorry, I took a shot at Andy for being a redhead. That was totally uncalled for.
A little bit.
Don't worry.
No, but
half of my siblings are.
He has no soul, man.
I guess it sounds like, Austin, you agree that you would probably, for this, if everything was the same, you'd rather re-sign Mitch at this point over Andy Dalton, correct?
Yeah, well, and it just as a casual fan too, it's just common sense. In sports, you're trying to keep if two players are comparable, you want the younger player.
Right.
Mitch is 26, Andy Dalton's 33. So, and to Rich's point, he knows the offense already. He's athletic enough to scramble if we don't put the offensive line pieces in that need to be there. And also, there's upside. There's no upside with Andy Dalton. This is as good as he's going to be.
Sure.
So even if he returns to form somewhat, maybe that'll happen. But like you were saying, his tandem with AJ Green, and Cincinnati had some nice receivers when he was there. We have Allen Robinson, maybe.
Right.
Like, who else do we have really?
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with you guys. I think for the same money and everything, I would keep the younger player, the player that has showed once in a while he could play, and then try to work on his consistency. I think benching him last year and taking him out, putting Foles in, is not how you make a player more consistent in any means. So I think that, if anything, hurt
Unless it's
us last
Magic,
year.
apparently.
So I think definitely I would have rather have re-signed Mitch. And look at the deal that Mitch took. He took $2.5 million for a year. If he would have known that he would be the starter somewhere, he probably wouldn't take a deal that low. But I'm thinking we probably could have gotten Mitch for less money than we got Andy Dalton for. And I think he's more athletic. I think he's definitely younger. And I think his upside is actually even slightly better than Andy Dalton. Now, Andy Dalton might be slightly more consistent, but he's struggled with consistency as well. So I just don't think Andy Dalton's upside in any way is more than Mitch's, that's why I'm so puzzled by the move.
He had all the weapons in
It's a
Dallas last
consensus,
year
yeah.
between CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. He had all the weapons. Like, if he did bring it, like there was room for him to light it up, but it
Right.
didn't work out. Like, even with
And Zeke, who's a pass catcher out of the backfield.
He's looking a little chunky.
Now you're high on Zeke?
No,
now
I'm not.
Zeke's a good player?
He at least knows how to catch the ball, Rich, out of the backfield.
Doesn't hold on to it super well, though.
That helps a quarterback, though, when they know they have a player that could catch the ball that they can dump it off to. I think that definitely actually hurt Mitch last year, losing a guy like Tariq Cohen, knowing that he's a guy that will catch the ball when you dump it off to him. When he went out, the Bears, offense, as bad as they looked before he went out, looked even worse for a couple games. So having someone that can catch the ball out of the backfield helps a lot. And to your point, Andy Dalton did not look great last year with all that talent around him. There was a huge step down from going from Dak Prescott to when Andy Dalton stepped in there. Huge step down on their offensive numbers. And I don't even think Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback in this league. And clearly, huge step down from him to Andy Dalton.
Yeah, it is super. That signing made no sense, and it just makes no sense. The signings that he does. Let's give Nick Foles a ton of money. Let's give Andy Dalton a ton of money. Let's also sign Robert Quinn to a stupidly large deal for the first couple years. And it's okay, so we can't even get rid of him because we won't even save money because you F that contract up so bad.
Let's not forget his first big quarterback move, even before drafting Mitch.
Mike Lennon!
Whoop, whoop. Yeah. The human giraffe.
And I hated that move back then. People were like, oh, Mike Lennon could be a starter in this league. And I was like, really? Has he shown that he can be a starter in this league?
He's the reason the Buccaneers were able to draft Jameis.
Right.
God.
I mean, he could barely make it on the field. And then we're like, oh, he just hasn't gotten enough of a chance. Obviously, Mitch outplayed Glennon in his first year as a rookie. And they were saying Mitch, not being a longtime starter in college or anything, was going to start off a little rocky, and he majorly outplayed Glennon. So, and that was Mitch Trubisky. So that's Ryan Pace's quarterback decisions have been awful, I think.
Tons of head scratching. But on a brighter note, what do you guys think about the Bears potentially getting Kenny Galladay here? He came and visited us yesterday, and he went to go see the Giants today. What's the likelihood we sign him?
I think
if he's a Lion and visiting us, I think that could be good.
So from what I was seeing, he was only asking for $8 million a year, which is actually not terrible for a wide receiver that's going to be a number one wide receiver. I think there's 0% chance that we get Kenny Galladay if Allen Robinson stays. If we end up trading off Allen Robinson,
I don't know about that.
Then I think there's a good chance that Kenny Galladay comes. I just don't think, for one, I don't think we can afford him. And then for two, I think he wants to be like a number one. And I think he's going to be the number two to Allen Robinson.
As of 12 minutes ago, CBS Sports says that Allen Robinson is strongly considering signing Bears franchise tag after Kenny Galladay visits. So, where I think some guys worry about being the number one option, I think the Bears receiving core is so bad that Allen Robinson actually wants help, and that would maybe make him stay there to just not be, the obvious double team, the obvious target if they need a big catch. Like, to have another person to take the pressure off of him will make him want to stay. So I don't know if they're able to pull that off, which I think maybe they could, man. Just, I like Kenny Galladay from watching a little bit of Lions since I used to go to college in the state of Michigan. But, just looking up this guy up again, he's from Chicago, former Lion.
Right?
Yep.
I believe that's right. Yeah, home of Richard, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Rich.
I know you.
Rich spent 12 years there, and
whoa!
Hey, lots of people go to school for 8 years.
And then
he almost beautiful city. How dare you?
He almost even got a degree while I was there as well.
Oh, dude,
hey,
I have like
some
type. Dude, I got some type of paperwork. It's somewhere in my apartment. I don't know.
Rich got his degree in like beer drinking and bowling or something.
Nah, I
did take bowling class. That is a fact.
I thought it was in ultimate frisbee, or was it a minor in ultimate frisbee?
Oh no, that was just like for fun.
Oh, I thought that team was a drinking team that sometimes played ultimate frisbee like on the side.
I'm gonna go with frisbee first, maybe.
Clearly, you're questioning that, but we're getting off topic. So, Kenny Galladay, I think it would be great to have Kenny Galladay and Allen Robinson be your 1-2 punch, and then have Darnell Mooney fucking running down the field. That'd be
in a slot. Oof.
That'd be a great fucking trio of wide receivers. So if we can make that happen, if we have enough cap space to do that, we would go from being one of the shittiest cores for the wide receiver position to probably one of the best in the NFL. I mean, you could argue a couple other teams, but definitely in the top 5. So even with Andy Dalton back there, maybe he could complete a couple passes.
I'll have the talent to toss it too, yeah.
God. But
if the money is good, I love the Kenny Galladay signing.
Yeah, definitely.
We would definitely wants to play for the Bears because he's from Chicago. He's from Illinois.
You would hope, Rich.
He saved $11 million. That's more than what Kenny wants.
You wouldn't visit the Bears if you played for the Lions if you weren't serious about it, because you get so much shit for visiting the Bears if you weren't actually going to do it. Like if you were just doing it for shits and giggles, like your teammates would be like, "Really, bro? Like checking out the Bears? You're lying." Like don't do that.
In
I just
my
feel
opinion,
like you wouldn't visit a rival team if you weren't serious about it.
In my opinion, he was not like very happy with the Lions in general his last couple of years.
Can you blame? I mean,
but no, I mean outside of them not being like good, but like it's clear that like he struggled, quote unquote, with health last year. I think most of last season he just sat out because he knew they weren't going to do anything. Like it seemed like, because I had him on one of my fantasy teams.
Me too.
It seemed like every week he was like listed as questionable, got like promoted to like maybe he'll play, and then like at game time out. And it's like, yeah, I think if they had a chance to like make a playoff run or something, I think he would have played. And I think a player that like kind of wants to give his all to a team. Well, you can look at Matt Stafford, same team and everything. He could have sat out a bunch of games and stuff at the end of the season when they were out of the playoffs, and he played, but I think he had a little bit more love or support for Detroit than Kenny Galladay had.
And I think it ended up biting him in the ass. You know, he got injured. So, like probably looking.
But how injured was he? That's like kind of my question.
No, I'm saying Matt Stafford got injured.
Right, yeah.
And when you look at other players like, Megatron or, dating way back in the day to like Barry Sanders, there's a lot of people who have like retired earlier from the Lions or just said, it's not worth putting my body on the line for this team. Like, that's a major shot at the Lions, but I think, even Lions fans would admit that like guys don't want to give it up for a franchise that, isn't historically
and that's the opposite of what
goodwill that Jim Caldwell built was set back a decade because of Matt Patricia. I don't think a single person enjoyed playing for him.
Yeah, I heard that a lot of people didn't like playing for him. But I think their new head coach seems to have a lot of fire in his belly, coming out saying that they're gonna be
opening press conference ever.
Yeah, that they're gonna be biting people in the kneecaps and fighting until like people die and stuff. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting showing as a head coach in there going forward. But yeah, that was definitely fun to watch as a press conference, which an opening press conference is usually pretty boring in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not enough coaches threatening to bite off kneecaps. We need more
right.
of that.
Yeah. We need a lot more of that in the NFL. I mean, maybe
more.
I could see Pete Carroll maybe nibbling at some kneecaps or something. He's kind of insane, but not
Random
many.
thought on Pete Carroll. Somebody right now Google Roger Waters from Pink Floyd and tell me that Pete Carroll and Roger Waters are not the same person.
Oh, could be.
Oh man. All right. So I guess with that, all the free agency and just kind of shitting on the Bears and Ryan Pace for the cast here. Adam, do we got a 2-minute drill today?
We could put one together, but I didn't have one prepared just because I was so I didn't know how long this would take us just kind of going forward talking about free agency. I think instead let's go ahead and anyone that knows or has an idea, let's say everyone go around and say what was, it doesn't obviously probably won't be the Bears, but let's go around and say what do you think was one of the better signings and which signing to you made no sense, and let's actually do no Bears on that. So Rich, do you want to take it away? Which signing to you do you think was really good, and which one were you looking at saying that was just kind of a puzzling move?
I think the most puzzling move so far in this whole free agency was definitely Dolphins just cutting Van Noy after how well he played for the Dolphins, and also the money they gave him too after 1 year. That did not make a whole lot of sense at all. Like that one was very just weird and just baffling from the Dolphins. I would think that move was bad, but one that's equally as bad, I think, is the Houston Texans signing Mark Ingram, because I don't think he has that much left in the tank. And there's Houston again, just trying to get some type of running back that used to be good,
right?
And trying to find some magic in the bottle, nonsense there.
They miss on a lot of running backs, or they try to get people near the end of their career, and it doesn't typically work out for them. All right. Austin and Bobby, do you have one in mind? Or Rich, did you say a good signing? Did you say one you like?
No, there's literally no.
Yeah, I was just saying
absolutely zero good signings.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I was just saying the only other really good signing I think has to be the Patriots and getting both those tight ends. I think that was
that was going to be mine.
That was one of the best moves. Literally looking at all of the moves here, I'm not blown away by any team's free agency move right now, where it's just oh man, this guy got the best guy. This guy's going to totally change their team.
Sure.
Every team's move to me feels just it's something they either should have done or you're shocked by what they did.
Sure. Yeah.
But yep, I'm good now.
Rich stole mine. I had a good one. I mean, there's so many bad
ones. All right, well, we can come back to you, Austin, if you want to think of a different one. We'll go over it.
I think I may have thought of a different one.
Oh, okay. Take it away.
As Rich would say. I looked one up. But I just saw that Ryan Fitzpatrick going to the Washington football team. First off, are they going to come up with a name this year? Or are they just
no, they will play under Washington football team this year, yeah.
Again? Okay.
Yep.
Until Jeff Bezos buys them and makes them the Washington Prime.
Well, the Washington Amazon, that would be actually really cool.
Prime.
But no, I think the signing of Fitz is not a bad move, because you look at that division, it's terrible. So, like, it's not really hard to win that division and get in the playoffs in this broken-ass playoff system that is the NFL playoffs. And you look at a guy like Fitz, man, I mean, we were joking about it earlier. You know, he could heat up. He's a veteran presence. He can learn. Offense is really quick. Some of you guys were saying, like, I kind of like that move because that team's just sort of scrappy to me. I don't know. I like Washington. Like, the other teams in that division are bad, but they're like, they should be much better. I feel like Washington should be bad, but they compete. Like, they play hard.
Sure.
Like, they actually try to win games. Like, they're really just not good. They're just young and they're not good. I feel like putting a veteran presence like that in the locker room could actually really help that team. And that division is wide open.
I'll predict it here. Washington makes the playoffs next year. I think they win that division.
I think so too.
I think they can line up a couple different people at quarterback this year and probably win that division. If their defense takes another step forward this year, that defense could be like one of the best defenses in the league. Chase Young,
is so good.
Their D line is amazing.
Yeah, I honestly think if they draft well, I think they win that division hands down. So yeah, I think Fitzmagic. Yeah,
even
I think
if they don't, like, they're on the ups, whereas those other teams in that division are just kind of in a downward spiral. Yeah, or stagnant.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, I guess you could say the Giants are probably fairly young, right?
Yeah, but the Giants, like, no matter who they pick up, sign, draft, they do the same thing every year, and they never perform well. So
yeah. I like where things are going in Washington. Like, that team seems like they compete. It's just a matter of getting experience and bringing someone in like that. Yeah, that to me, that's the best one I've seen at first glance. But honest to God, I had to look it up. I had to look up like best signings. So
sure.
Shout out USA Today.
I guess Bobby.
So I'm actually excited. None of mine were taken. So a move that got made that almost got no attention and surprised me is the Bills signed Emmanuel Sanders. I thought that was awesome for the first time in like 20 years. Like, the Bills are contenders and ready to win now.
Sure.
Since that, like, Music City Miracle year. And I just, one more weapon. Emmanuel Sanders definitely isn't as explosive as he used to be, but he's still a top-notch route runner, veteran presence, and it's less attention that will be on Stephon Diggs because of him. And I love that move for getting Josh Allen another weapon.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And the moves that puzzle me, it's like a collection of weird trades and or cuts. The Las Vegas Raiders had one of the best offensive lines last year. And for some reason or another, maybe they're trying to sabotage Derek Carr. They're steadily just scrapping away all of their elite offensive linemen one by one. Like, they trade Trent Brown for almost nothing. They're about to cut Rodney Hudson, one of the best centers in the league. But then the last second, they're like, wait, we don't want you to be happy and, like, pick you where you want to go. We're trading you to the Cardinals. And then they trade James Jackson. It just makes no sense. I'm convinced John Gruden is trying to kill Derek Carr. So, hey, we need a new quarterback.
Yeah, we talked at length about possibly finding a way to acquire Derek Carr, and I definitely would have liked that move a lot more than
John Gruden does not want.
Dude, we have such reasonable expectations, and they were still not met. I'm just surprised that we haven't like gone off on that for a quick second. Like, we had super realistic expectations. Like, you could watch the podcast or listen to the podcast rather. The evidence is there. None of us were delusional Bears fans. Like, we're going to get Deshaun Watson. None of us are like, we're going to make a trade for Russell Wilson. Like, we're all super realistic, and they still underperformed. Like, man, I consider myself a relatively cynical, realistic person. And the fact that, like, even realistic expectations were not met is just frustrating, man.
Even I would have liked even acquiring like Teddy Bridgewater or something more than
at least,
like, man. But again, Austin, I feel like we could talk, 2-3 hours just on being pissed about the moves. I think we could talk an hour just on Andy Dalton and how he's never satisfied.
I'm never satisfied. You were able to get off that topic. That's how you know the disappointment levels is that, like, when there's just nothing left to say. It's just, you're just utterly, like, speechless.
Yeah, Andy Dalton, I think, is a guy who has never really satisfied a team, probably never really satisfied a woman.
Wow. I thought that the redhead
Pretty
slander,
sure he
dude.
has a wife, but
So, did you
okay.
interview her, Rich? Do you want to have her? Do you want to
Really?
have her on?
Dude,
And-
Andy
Hey,
Dalton's
if we
wife,
could
you're
get
welcome to
any
get on the pod.
sports related anyone on our
Okay.
show, I mean, hell yeah.
All right, fine.
That's
We'll
true.
invite Andy Dalton's wife on next week. She'll be the guest.
What a bad first impression. Hey, Andy, we don't want you to come on. We don't want your wife to come on.
Your wife up to,
What?
dude.
His wife might be a better quarterback. Who knows? So, I mean, but again, we could probably talk hours on that. So that was your puzzling move. Did you say a good move, a move that you liked so far?
Yeah, he did. He said Emmanuel Sanders, right?
Ah,
You're
yes.
talking about
Sanders
Rodgers.
was
Yes.
He started
not-
high, then
Sorry,
went low.
sorry. Just started thinking about Andy Dalton's wife and got a little distracted.
It happens to the best of us, man.
Yeah, I guess I'm just picturing her being like really
Now,
attractive.
Ryan Tannehill's wife, that's another
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. And Tom Brady's wife as well.
Oh, the what? Okay.
Okay, we'll do next
Oh,
week. We'll
man.
do a segment about hottest wives in the NFL. Put that on the list.
Oh my
Born
god.
all day.
Love to
All
see
right.
it.
Gonna
Can we
add
put
it,
it right under what is this segment called? The big ass titties segment? Is that what this is that we're in
Yeah,
right now?
that was the
Someone
segment.
wrote Patriots and big ass titties. So I don't know where we were going with that today.
That's the segment.
We normally have a segment list for all two of our listeners at home, in case you don't already know that, because most have already been on the podcast or like live with the people that are on this podcast. So most know that. But yeah, we normally have a segment sheet, and today it just said Patriots, like Patriots spelled wrong, and big ass titties.
Rich.
So that's all we had to go off.
Yeah,
That's the professionalism I jumped into.
we'll push the big ass titties segment back to next week and talk about the hottest wives in the NFL. Or maybe around the NBA and other sports.
That's
like
true.
that. So
Hottest wives
we
in
don't want
sports.
to discriminate. So okay, I guess I'll go. I'll finish it up. I'll start with my puzzling move, and I am also going to go with the Raiders, but I was going to go a little bit different. They gave Kenyon Drake a fair amount of money and signed Theo Riddick, and still have Josh Jacobs on their roster. I'm not sure why they're throwing a lot of like money out the window on receiver or on running backs.
And they
When if
cut their
anything,
offensive
they
line,
should
which
have
is weird.
probably gone after maybe a bigger name receiver and try to acquire maybe like a kind of Galladay or something like that. I feel like their receivers always underperform, and if anything, their running backs do okay. So why are they spending a lot of money on running backs? I found that a little bit puzzling, especially with the getting rid of the offensive line move or replacing the offensive line. I didn't like that move. I think they've signed a lot of good players defensively in a way, but they're definitely being very puzzling on offense. And then I would say an underrated kind of move that I like. Unfortunately, I think the Vikings signing Patrick Peterson is pretty big. Their defense struggled last year at times, and kind of getting a solid corner that also brings you that veteran presence. And they got him for not too bad of a price, 1 year kind of prove it deal. But I think he could probably elevate that defense if he performs as well as he's done in the past for the Cardinals. So unfortunately, kind of a move that may end up hurting the Bears, but I think that was probably a good move on their part.
Yeah, I was not happy with that move because I like Patrick Peterson, and now I have to not like him.
Right. And I would say another kind of interesting move, I don't know if I love it or hate it at this point, Kansas City Chiefs we talked about this last week a little bit, cut both tackles, right? And then signed
Kyle Long.
2 guards. Yeah, and one of them being Kyle Long, which as a Bears fan is interesting to me. He's been out of the league, I think, 2 years or 3 years, depending on, that last year he didn't really play much because of injury. But I found it interesting that they cut tackles and then signed 2 guards. They gave Joe Thuney a ton of money to play there. So I thought that move was definitely puzzling.
Sorry, did they cut Eric Fisher?
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
R.I.P. dude. Shout out Eric Fisher. I went to Central Michigan University. Only good draft pick we've ever had in the NFL. He was first overall. We burned some couches in celebration and jumped over them. and ran in circles and like yelled Eric Fisher like up and down the streets. Like it was probably the most hyped the school's ever been. And now
I wouldn't hate if the Bears brought him in, honestly. I think that was kind of an interesting cut move. I think he's played fairly well. Obviously, the Chiefs ended up in the Super Bowl last year. They gave Patrick Mahomes enough time to throw the ball. So I think he would be an upgrade over Massey and Leno for sure. So I wouldn't hate to see that move, I guess.
And Austin, how dare you dismiss former Bears quarterback Dan Lefevre, former 6th-round pick?
Yeah, Austin, how dare you?
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yes, that guy.
He wasn't a number 1 overall pick though.
And as we're talking, I guess, a little bit, just want to finish up my takes here about some free agency stuff. As we're talking about offensive linemen that I was mentioning, it seemed like the Bears were one of the teams that Trent Williams was in talks with, and then he ends up returning to San Francisco for like huge money. So I'm curious, like, how were the Bears ever in the conversation for that when we have no cap space? He ends up breaking the record for the highest contract signed by an offensive lineman.
Did you see how much he beat it by though? Too, it was like $10,000 or something.
Oh, it was barely
was it?
over what
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Bakhtiari got.
barely over. Like it was just.
That's what we call a big dick move.
Yeah.
But yeah, but how are the Bears even like kind of in on that when we have no cap space? Or was that, maybe that's why he didn't, pick us, I guess.
Yeah, my working theory is he talked to us as a negotiation tactic to put the 49ers on their heels.
Sure.
Because with all the like cap number problems we've had, there's no way we could have afforded that.
Right. Yeah, and the 49ers haven't been all that active. They've done a little bit more re-signing of players than picking up free agents, I guess. But yeah, so that was a move that if somehow we were going to get him for cheap, which obviously does not look like it was in the realm of possibility, that I wouldn't have hated to see that move. But he ended up maybe getting overpaid. I don't know. He's a good player, but that's a lot of money to throw at an offensive lineman. And in recent history, throwing that much money at offensive linemen have not worked out for team. If you look at a contract that Nate Solder signed not too long ago, and then he's definitely underperformed on that much money.
Yeah. Well, in the
It'll probably work out great for the Packers.
Oh, that's a good note to end the podcast on. Let's not talk any Packers. It's the last thing we want to do.
They really haven't done shit in the free agency here. They re-signed Aaron Jones.
They have a quarterback.
Was unfortunately
nice.
A really good. They lost Corey Linsley, which made me a little happy. But
yeah, and they lost one of their linebackers, right? And a corner, I believe Kevin King. They have lost, and I think they lost a linebacker.
No,
and
they
Corey
didn't lose
Lindsey.
Kevin King. There's no
they
way.
were throwing a parade the minute he was a free agent.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, probably.
Yeah, they lost him. He was. I mean, he underperformed, but he it was their starting corner for quite some time. So they've lost more players than they've signed. They got Aaron Jones back, but for a running back, they paid him a decent amount of money, and they are in a very tight cap space right now. Even with, I've heard that if anything, because people were talking to Aaron Rodgers about restructuring his contract, and he was saying that if he was going to restructure his contract, he wanted more money. He wasn't going to like give up money. So I think that's interesting when your team, is in a hard cap situation to kind of demand more money, unlike Tom Brady, who kept taking pay cuts so his team can keep winning the Super Bowl. So I guess that shows kind of the difference between two mentalities there.
That's the most impressive GMing I think I've seen, the way the Buccaneers are able to re-sign all these guys. It's like, it's more impressive than what New England is doing, because they have a lot of money. Hey, let's throw it at these guys and see what happens. But being able to keep Shaq Barrett and Levante David for definitely more, they could have made more in the open market, but not chump change by any stretch, is beyond impressive to me.
Yeah, I mean, and then they tagged Goodwin, and then they got Gronk back on another 1-year deal. So we'll see how long I'm assuming he's just going to keep playing now until Tom Brady retires or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, another team that's re-signed a bunch of players, but really haven't looked outside of their roster for anybody at all. but I think a lot of their re-signings have been good news for them that they're able to get those guys back. Another team that was in a tight cap situation. Well, I guess most teams are. So, yeah, not very surprising, I guess.
I agree. So with that note, I think that's pretty much it on our free agency and our thoughts on
Sure.
it. For it.
Well, that's all we feel. That's all we feel
Yeah.
like sharing this week, Rich.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do like an uncut unrated where we just cuss and break things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's all I have to say personally.
Yeah, I think that's all we feel like sharing without going super depressing and starting to yell. And
you guys are welcome to stay on and be depressed, Bears.
I don't want
to get some dinner. I'm hungry.
Austin, I don't want to continue talking about this because I feel like I may develop like alcoholism or something. So I just want to move on with my life.
Adam's tone the whole podcast still being like completely monotone and calm is like the most depressing part about it. It's just like, all right, over to the segment about the Bears, and it's just like, oh man, Adam's like has no emotional attachment to this at all. That's how you know he's just done. He's
totally none. I'm just gonna be hopeful that like I don't know, somehow we get rid of Nick Foles. Somehow like Andy Dalton like either like I don't know, maybe he like gets bit by like some radioactive spider and like develops talent of some sort, or we find some like Joe Schmo off like the street that can come in and be the greatest quarterback of all time. That's like where
Joe Schmo. I think it's already there. Like
but that's, I guess, my hope. Let's just hope for the best, and I guess we'll move on from there.
All right. Yeah. Well, if the golf course is ready, no playoffs. All right.
Destined for
it's been real, guys.
Yeah.
Should we just cook this one?
Yeah. Later, fellas.
Bye, fans. Thanks for coming on, Bobby. It was fun.
Bobby, it was great having you. Sorry. Well, hopefully, I was hoping we could get you on for some like exciting Bears news, but you know.
Hey, 2022 drafts. Who are the top prospects there?
We'll bring you on to talk that next time, I suppose.
Bring me on to talk the draft. I'm very excited.
Yeah, much more positive podcast.
That's why they signed Andy Dalton 1 year. They're hoping to have like that number 1, 2, or 3 pick the following year, and they're like, oh, we'll just take the best available quarterback and start over.
Yeah.
I hope so. Or maybe they'll trade up and not take the best available quarterback.
Yeah, that's the only problem, Rich.
Waste the defense.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Waste the defense for another year. That sounds awesome. Idiot.
Waste the defense. Waste Richard's hard drive space with another pod.
Oh, no, dude. My hard drive's doing pretty well.
Well, that's good.
It's going strong.
At least something's doing well. All right. With that, fellas, this has been the Next Man Up. Have a good one. Or a bad one, I guess.
Peace.
Bye.